They made obviously big headlines last year when they gave their interview to Oprah. And rather than being appreciative of the many gifts that they had both received, thanks to the British people, and in her case, also thanks to the American people, they went out there and started whining about their lives.
Well, tell us how you really think, Meghan.
I'm not shy.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, of course, they're immensely unpopular. Now, do you remember you do, I'm sure, how popular Harry was? He was he had problems with drugs when he was young and made a lot of gaffes, the Nazi uniform, and all this stuff, costume party. But, people loved him. His service, 10 years in the army and, actually in combat, that sort of thing. And then this happens. And then you couldn't have had a larger fall from grace in the British, in terms of the Brits. I mean, Meghan is not high. Well, the polls say it all, don't they?
She's got like a less than 22% approval rating over there. Right.
And I think, again, Camilla is a little better right now, but she'll sink down into that territory back to that area. But it's kind of astounding. And I guess it's just one of those things that I always was taken by the fact that, from the get-go, Meghan Markle said that she knew nothing about Harry being a prince, knew nothing about the family. Well, she, like every other young woman of that age, they were all in love with it. He knew all. There were pictures of her at the gates of Buckingham Palace when she was a teenager.
For my age, it was JFK Jr. For her age, it was Prince Harry. Let's get real. There's always that eligible bachelor in the Kennedys back when I was growing up, were the closest thing we had to American royalty, even though we don't like royalty here. And so she was a liar. I mean, that's really what we're both saying. She lied about it. She lied. And my producer was pointing out, in her latest podcast, she's talking about her guest mentions Harry, and Meghan replies, "Oh, my husband, he's great," talking about helping her get the kids ready in the morning. And my producer, Kelly, says, "Is it just me, or is it so annoying how she always refers to him as my husband?" It's not just you, Kelly. It is all of us. My husband. We get it. You bagged the gorilla. Congratulations. You got the big bear. You want us to know. We know. Right. Okay. So anyway, let's go back to the Harry and Meghan interview with Oprah. Okay, where instead of being grateful for the many gifts that they've received, they decided to make a thing out of the royal family being racist, and in particular said as follows. It's SOT 16.
In those months when I was pregnant, all around this same time, so we have in tandem the conversation of he won't be given security, he's not going to be given a title, and also concerns and conversations about how dark his skin might be when he's born.
What?
And
who is having that conversation with you? What?
So,
there is a conversation. Hold up.
There's
Stop
several
right now.
There are several conversations.
There's a conversation with you,
with Harry,
about how dark your baby is going to be?
Potentially, and what that would mean or look like.
Ooh. And you're not going to tell me who had the conversation?
I think that would be very damaging to them.
Which is the entire point. That was acting. Stand by. I'm going to get you to weigh in on this, but I want to show where Harry weighed in on it shortly thereafter.
That conversation, I'm never going to share. But at the time it was awkward. I was a bit shocked.
Can you tell us what the question was?
No, I'm not comfortable sharing that.
So you've got some information on this that made a lot of news.
Right.
What happened?
Well, I mean, it was an innocent comment. I've written about this before, made by, and this was at the very beginning of it. It was prior to the wedding of. It was during when their engagement was about to be announced.
It was not during the pregnancy, and it was not surrounding a discussion of titles or security about any baby.
Nothing like that at all. It was an innocent conversation about two people who are going to be, if they are going to be grandparents, Charles and Camilla, speculating on what the kids might look like. Obviously you have two very attractive people here, and I wonder what color their eyes will be, what their hair will be like, this kind of thing. It was something I would say relatively benign. and witnessed by several people, and then spun into something toxic and rougher sounding by, again, the men in gray who operate the monarchy behind the scenes. By the time it got to Harry and Meghan, it might have been something that they misinterpreted. It was a game of telephone, let's put it that way. But, to imagine that there was anything venal or racist about it, I think is wrong and misguided and misleading.
Well, I mean, it's funny because a lot of our listeners and viewers have written in about this. We've talked about this obviously many times, like any journalist covering those two, and that interview has. And so many of our viewers who are in mixed race relationships say it is a very natural thing to talk about what's the baby going to look like? Is it going to be darker or lighter? Going to look like you? Going to look like me? It's not considered racist. It's just you're curious about how your baby's going to look. A negative judgment attached to darker skin would be racist. But just wondering, that's not racist.
It's not racist. And the thing, too, is it's doubly true of grandparents. I'm a grandparent. I can tell you that, of course we did that with all three of our grandkids, I mean, why not? It's fun to speculate on things like that, and it doesn't show any disrespect or any hints of racism or anything of the sort. And to jump to that conclusion based on that, I would find, to be, in my view, pretty irresponsible.
But it's great. If you're telling me that the misunderstanding, to be charitable, came from the men in gray and that they were, Harry was misled, I'm sorry, but that doesn't let him off the hook. He should know his father. He should know that his dad is not a racist. I mean, there's no, as far as I know, and you just wrote the bio on the guy, there's not some history of the dad wearing a Nazi uniform at Halloween, of the dad doing racist things. Why would Harry so willingly jump to, I'll never share it. Yes, it would be very damaging. There's a raging racist in my family.
Well, I think it's interesting, too. If you look back, everybody remembers Harry's past. I mean, he had trouble with the drugs. He had, when he was a teenager, it got, the tabloids had a field day with it. He wore the Nazi uniform into a costume party. He said some things people interpreted as being anti-Muslim to some army buddies. He got hot water repeatedly. He drank too much. He was always being pulled out of clubs, drunk and stumbling about. But all along the way, and I have to hand it to Charles as a guy his whole childhood was a mess. But he stepped up. He backed Harry. He got him the help he needed when he needed it. He would not, banish Harry. And actually was one of his closest allies when Harry had to deal with all of these various things. So it is too bad that Harry couldn't remember that part of their relationship, I guess.